Hello and welcome to Meet Me in the Middle. We're talking about women in midlife, women who are struggling with all of the issues money, health, relationships, and all of that power that comes from the middle of our life because we've got, yes, half of it behind us, but a whole lot to look forward to. And we're here to help you navigate this space in your true sense of power. I'm Kirsten Cole. I'm your host. And with me today is Cindy Greenstein. She is the Points Mom. If you haven't seen it yet on social media, you're sure to, because of course your phone is listening to you. We know that. But also, she is so much more than that, a CPA, an attorney, a mother of three. You have lived and walked a lot of miles in all of this. And we're here to dig into how you made those decisions and help other people move into the small business arena if that's something that they've been thinking about. And I would think most of us at some point in a time think, I would really like to be my own boss. I would really like to have a side hustle. I'd like to make my own money. And so you're somebody who can help us guide through that time and lead us through it. First of all, big life decision to go from being a CPA to going back to school to become an attorney. Even bigger decision to go from being a practicing attorney to not, and then choosing to start your own small business. Unpack a little bit of that for
Mhm.
us.
Well, it was a natural transition,
For
pretty much
you. Yeah.
for me.
Right.
Yes, I kind of got addicted when I was an accountant to points and miles. I traveled a ton for work,
Right.
so I started earning airline miles and hotel points way before banks were involved and credit cards were involved.
Before it was in vogue.
Exactly.
Okay.
So I kind of learned the lay of the land just by staying and flying. And then I always traveled a ton. When I met my husband, we traveled a ton before we
Mhm.
had kids. Yes, I went back to law school, became an attorney, and still was traveling a lot, then had kids. Uh, Stopped being an attorney, decided to focus on being a full-time mom.
Which so many women do. They come off or they lean in more heavily to that mom portion, and work can take a little bit more of a back seat.
Definitely. But I mean, I was a little restless and I kind of already knew the ropes, and I did what I now do for other people for myself and my family, where I learned and applied and got bonuses and redeemed points and miles for travel for me and, at that time, my young children and my family.
And, this really speaks to the fact of how women are largely in charge of the budgets and the money within their family. So 62% of women over 40, and that would definitely be in midlife, are the deciders of the budget, right? And
Yep.
travel is definitely one of those discretionary items where you have to decide how are we going to spend our dollars. Within 2 years, women are projected to control 75% of the discretionary spend. We're in charge. We're in the driver's seat here.
Yep.
And we need to do it in the most cost-effective way. You really advocate for making your spend work for you. Don't just shell out for all of this travel.
Exactly. So when you do everyday spending, no matter what you're doing, whether you're in a grocery store or out for dinner or paying for your kids' soccer lessons
Right.
or whatever you're doing, there's pretty much the right card to pull. And when I say the right card, it means a card that's earning you more than 1x point mile reward per dollar.
A lot of people, I think, try to choose a card that has a good annual fee and that they think will pay them back. Some people like these cash back cards, right? Where
Yes.
they just it's easy breezy, it's seamless. You
Yep.
you see I spend X and I get X put back into my bank account. I would imagine that you advocate for girl, you need to be getting 2 times as much, 3 times as much, redeeming at the right time, redeeming with the right providers and carriers and hotels.
Totally. And the cashback is nice for some people, but there's so much more than cashback when you start to get into real points and miles, just because there's so many more options to redeem.
And as somebody that has followed you on social media, you have these wonderful experiences that you're curating with your children, and whether they're young or in your case, they're a little bit more grown. And I feel like we have to lure our children in to spend time with us at that point in time because they're working on their paid time off. They've got to decide how am I going to spend my
Exactly.
time off. And you curate these wonderful, like lifelong memories. You're making memories with your family with this.
Yeah, definitely. And it's a win-win because, like you said, we're making memories, we're going on these great trips, and we're not outlaying thousands and thousands of dollars. We're able to do it within a reasonable budget. And I would say throughout all our trips of the past 20 years, and we usually went away every break, and at least half, if not all of our trips were paid for with points and miles.
You leaned into this space when people weren't doing it. You were one of the early adopters of this. But I'm really curious about how you chose, you know what? I'm a trained CPA. I'm making a good living. I've got my certifications. I have my clients. I have my business. And then, nope, I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm going to go back to law school. How much of a leap of faith is it to go
Mhm.
back to school? And what would you say to somebody who's thinking, you know what, my first career choice may not have been the right career choice? How do you decide when to fish and cut bait, invest in yourself in another education? Those had to be big decisions.
Totally. And you cross your fingers and you hope that you're making the right decision. And now I'm with it now. I have 3 young adult children who are somewhat going through similar situations and they need
Hmm.
to make decisions. And we don't always know that everything is going to work out, but I wish I was a lawyer for a little bit longer, but I will say that education is worth it. And everything I learned as a lawyer, and even in terms of
Mm.
reading credit card terms to
The
figure
fine
things out to
print.
help people, definitely me going to law school completely helps with that now
And
because
I've heard from so many people that a law school education, even if you choose not to practice in that field, is one that trains the mind so well.
totally it does.
And so you're saying, sort of you cross your fingers, but was there a T chart analysis, whether it's for yourself or you just brought in children into the space, guiding a child? Is this sort of a luxury decision that you can make? Not everybody can afford to get that big ticket education the first time around or even a second time around.
Right.
I mean, you do have to sort of look at the money.
Yeah. I'm fortunate in that my husband, and I'm sure we'll get into his business a little bit too, because that's where we really earn a lot of our points and miles.
Right.
But he, has a business, and I pretty much was able to be a stay-at-home mom after going to law school,
Right.
being a lawyer, then staying home with my kids. And like I said, I was a little restless and I was doing everything I was doing anyway for myself and for my family. So then it kind of became I started helping others do what we did.
You are a huge financial advocate. You're a women's financial advocate. And it's sort of the like, girl, wash your face, girl, get your money house in order. And
Yeah.
this really helps you to sort of pivot a little bit and look at that and look at your spend because we're all on credit cards and electronic money. So coming up in part 2 after the other side of the break, we're going to look at how women control 5 to 15 trillion dollars annually, and even if your part of that is much smaller as it is for most of us, you need to really have a fine eye and be in charge of that. So, coming up in part 2, we're going to look at how to control your portion of the spend, your family's portion responsibly, and to maximize that when we come back in part 2 of Meet Me in the Middle. Welcome back to Meet Me in the Middle. I'm Kirsten Cole, your host. We are helping you to step into your power as likely your family's budget person. You are the CFO of your own family. And today we're going to teach you how to be a CFO and use the money that you're already spending to create and maximize memories with your family by traveling well. With me, my guest, Cindy Greenstein, the Points Mom. She is in the social media space. She's also an independent consultant helping people to maximize their overspend because, yes, this can be complicated. I'm not going to undersell this. And we're going to take a look now at how we control a purse of 5 to 15 trillion a year. I can't even say it, as women and as the budgetary deciders in our family. Talk about how to maximize the everyday spending, toothpaste, groceries, gasoline, things for our children, clothing, the things that we have to spend on, and turning it into the things that we should be and enjoy spending on, which is travel, which can be a huge expense if you want to do it on the more luxurious side of the street. And who doesn't, right?
Right. Totally. And like I said, we all spend every day anyway on necessities, sometimes on fun things. But if we are going to be spending anyway, we may as well be pulling a card that works for us
How
and
many
not,
how many cards do you have or do people need to use in order to maximize this program?
I would say, between 2 and 4. I
That's
mean,
not a
I
lot.
definitely have more, but you don't have to have that many to really maximize. I would say 2 to 4.
So is that to make sure that you get the best spend for your airline seats, your hotel room, and what else?
So you're basically using your cards to earn what I like the best, which is flexible rewards cards. So I don't love people unless you are going for your status or you maybe live in Atlanta and you always are flying
Mm,
Delta. I don't like anybody to have, pretty much, if we're going to stick to the 2 to 4, cards that are tied to airline or hotel programs.
okay.
I like people to have cards that earn what I call flexible rewards cards.
Okay.
So those are your Amex Gold cards and your Chase Sapphire cards, which I'm sure everybody has heard of, or your Citi Thank You Premier cards, now the Citi Strata card. And flexible points allows you to redeem, if you want to, as cash back. But what it also does, it allows you to transfer your points to airline and hotel programs. And that often you get more bang for your buck. You redeem for higher value when you're able to do that. So as moms, and hopefully the moms can get their spouses on board too. And I tell this story a lot where Rob walks around
Your
with
husband.
Rob is my husband, and he basically walks around with stickers on his cards. So when he's at the grocery store, he pulls his card that says groceries. And when he's at the gas station, he pulls the gas card, and he gets made fun of. And, it's part of our,
Shtick.
dynamic. Exactly. I was going to say shtick and I didn't. It's part of our dynamic. And the other thing is, your parents and your spending and your kids are younger, but these young kids get older. And as they get older, you can make them part of the process. They can become players in the game. And as they are going out for dinner or lunch with their friends or going to the movies or going to Sephora to go shopping, they can also be contributing to the family buckets of points and miles. And when you have
Because
5,
every little bit funnels in and drips in and adds up.
totally.
And you have families that will do this where they collect points and miles for 2 years in order to create a trip. So this is
Yes,
a long game.
it depends. It's a long game if you only have personal expenses
Mm,
as a family, so normal, groceries and sneakers and
right.
dentist appointments. But if you also have your own business,
And small
either
business owners are
exactly.
a huge part of our American economy.
Exactly. And small business owners, or even bigger than small business owners,
Mhm.
they have a lot of expenses. And they have a lot of expenses where the banks out there are kind of targeting or guessing what they're spending money on and incentivizing cards that work for them. So advertising, for example, and now I'm not talking about like print advertising anymore. I'm talking about Google ads, which a lot of small businesses are doing, and SEO. A lot of the banks now are making business cards that specifically give more than 1x, 2x per dollar on expenses that, again, the business is spending anyway.
So if this all sounds great, but as a consumer, I'm thinking, oh my goodness, I'm not going to be able to stay on top of how this works.
Yeah. It's
Enter your website and
yes.
you have newsletters that go out, right? I mean,
Yes.
you're Instagramming and Facebooking to give us the information on this. You need to follow somebody who helps you navigate this, right?
Yes, yes. And that's what I do
Because that's your job.
exactly. And I do that for a lot of my clients. I send monthly reminders. And again, like you said, I'm on Instagram. Every beginning of the year, middle of the year, end of the year, I send like a roadmap of now what's next and what should we be doing. And for everyone that is overwhelmed, because there are so many people who are overwhelmed and they don't know when do I do this and what benefit is this? And I am now, it's coming soon, hopefully in January of this year, I am debuting a new website, which will ultimately be an app, which you can literally put your cards in and you kind of have it all right there, you know, in terms of your
To make it
benefits
easier.
and when you should be using which card based on how you're spending.
So this leads me to the question of, as a small business owner, you started this process back in the 90s when you were traveling, right?
Yes,
Things
a
have
long time ago.
right, and things have evolved so much. As a small business owner, what do you want to tell to other women who say, Cindy, this sounds great for you. I could never keep up with all this technology. How do you keep up with the evolving technology? Because you're not a chief technological officer, you're one woman.
Yep,
How do you keep up with it? How do you decide when to pay somebody to help you?
I should. But I'm not
Trial and error?
re-
Is it a little bit? You kind of have to have the spine,
pretty
the
much.
tolerance.
Yes. And again, I'm still learning. And like you kind of alluded to, like it's hard being this age. Not learning a ton of stuff as I went through, you know, regular school in terms of technology, in terms of things like Instagram edits that just came out, or I don't even know how to use Canva. Like I literally threw it on Facebook maybe like a year ago, like, can anybody give me a Canva lesson? And that's things that all these younger kids and people who are now
Right.
coming into the working world, they're all very proficient at it already. I teach myself basically, or I watch Instagram videos, or I use Google and AI.
Be a
And I
lifelong
sometimes,
learner.
exactly,
Yeah.
sometimes I go to my kids, they're not always so helpful, annoying mom. Sometimes I try their friends who are a little more helpful to me when I need something in terms of help,
So be
technically.
not afraid technologically. Be willing to learn, be
Yeah,
willing to ask.
yeah,
You know, you asked within your community, or you can just go to YouTube videos like so many of us do when I want to fix the dishwasher.
totally.
And yes, I like to fix my own dang dishwasher. I look on YouTube
Yeah,
and try to figure it out.
yeah,
And so if you have that bandwidth to do it, you can face the fear.
totally.
I want to talk in the next segment about how you monetize this, when you really started making money on it, the different streams of income, because there are different ways that you can do it as a consultant and also being able to monetize. And when the banks came to you, this
Yep,
is when you knew you hit the big time,
yep.
because I want to give women the roadmap for how to be successful as a small business owner. So you just got the third part. It's coming your way when we come back on the flip side of Meet Me in the Middle. Welcome back to Meet Me in the Middle. I'm Kirsten Cole, your host, and we are talking about finances today and how to get your daily spend and maybe your spouse's daily spend, your kids' daily spend to work for you to bring you great vacations and experiences. And that's what we're all about, living life to the fullest. With me, Cindy Greenstein, the founder of The Points Mom. You helped people navigate in this space. When did you start doing this? How long ago?
I probably like threw it out to consult people. I'm going to say in like 2018.
But you were talking about this with your friends. You were known as the go-to person for how long?
I'm going to say since like 2011 when I started
Wow.
really traveling with my family, and I kept putting our trips on Facebook just because I was proud of
And
like
everybody's like, wow, look
how
at
are
you
you
do
doing
this.
this?
Yeah.
Exactly.
So that it was organic, it was a passion. You advocate for people tapping into their passions and not being afraid to help grow this into a small business. So you're out there, you've got private clients. That's great, but those are hard to come by. You also do speaking engagements as an expert now.
I do. So I do a lot of chamber of commerce's. I do a lot of brokerage clients who the broker will, you know, market me as, hey, everyone, I have this great speaker for all of their clients.
Hmm.
I teach classes in our local county. So I teach in Bronxville, I teach in Yorktown, I teach in our local high school in Chappaqua.
This
Uh,
leads to, and this really lends into your passion for financial advocacy, literacy for women who still, despite controlling the majority of the spend, 62% of women over 40 are deciding the budget. A lot of us still have a long way to go with our literacy.
Totally. And something we haven't spoken about yet, even though the women are mostly in charge of the spending,
Mm.
there's a lot of women out there that I run into in what I do that don't even have credit in their own name. So that's something that
Wow.
it's crazy. And that's something that I also, gently try to advocate for.
Right.
They've kind of, you don't think about the future and you don't think that anything's going to happen, but things happen and you just want something in your own name as well. So that I try in terms of maximizing, yeah, sure, I try to help with that. But I also, like I said, gently try to suggest that maybe they change things up to empower the woman a little more
Yes.
if they're not already.
In addition to the consulting, in addition to the website and the newsletter, and in addition to putting yourself out there on Instagram and all of that, you also hit this important tipping point where the industry came to you. Talk about that and how that happened.
Yeah. So I was just going along doing my consultations and my speaking engagements, and I had a website. I had the websites probably since like 2015. And I guess somebody found me. I don't know if it was through social media or through my website, but I was approached by a company who was aligned with the banks. And now, in addition to everything I do with helping people, I also am a credit card affiliate through the banks.
Meaning that if somebody clicks on one of your links to apply for a card, you get a cut of that.
Exactly.
And that's known as a passive income.
Exactly. And that's really nice too. And it was a nice addition to me working very hard for
Right.
people and spending a lot of time. And who wouldn't want to just sit back basically and earn extra money? So I guess that I made it big enough and appealing enough that the banks did come to me. And now that is another source of income that I have.
And that was through working. I mean, you're a tireless writer. You're constantly, advocating and sharing so much information, valuable financial information. And you really, when we spoke in our pre-interview, you talked about how, you give a lot into the space and you should know that it will come back. That's the whole point, right?
Yeah, yes. And I like to help people and I don't like to one of the examples I give, if you want a Sapphire card, but your husband already has a Sapphire card, I won't say, Kirsten, use my link. I will have your husband refer you so he can get a referral bonus and you can get your bonus. So, and it comes back, like goodwill does come back. So I feel like when I do things like that, they'll come to me with their friends, or when their kids are older, they'll send their kids to me. So
I do feel like that organic goodwill is something that you can truly see in a person, even in this space of so much social media, which you feel is so manufactured. That true goodwill does reflect back.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah, I do find that, and people are happy. And when people are happy, they refer you. And it's an easy place to refer because you're out for dinner with another couple. And of course, you have to pay a dinner bill.
Tell people where they can find out more information about what you do and get your great tips and tricks for maximizing the points that they're getting.
Okay, I have a website, thepointsmom.com. My Instagram is thepointsmom_. You need the underscore. I'm on Facebook. I do have a newsletter, and I have a new community that it's private, and you're welcome to join, but there's good stuff in
A
there
lot of
too.
people doing that
Yeah,
too. That's
exactly.
another great
Yeah.
point as a small business owner to
Yeah.
create those communities where people have access. It's just
Exactly.
another layer of being able to do that.
Exactly.
Cindy Greenstein, I loved hearing about your story. Thank you for sharing information on how women can become their own small business owner, Be not afraid. Step into your power. Know that you control the money. Go ahead and own that. We want to help empower you as you navigate through midlife. I'm Kirsten Colin. This has been Meet Me in the Middle. Make sure you drop comments down below and tell me what you want to hear about next. See you next time.